here we are for another episode of Shining the Light On. Welcome everyone. Therese, how are you?
I'm doing good. We were talking right before we recorded. There's a weird energy happening. I feel like my gut says there's like some kind of negative energy being sent out. We had like all my family had weird dreams last night, like really intense or upsetting dreams, which was so odd.
Yeah, there's been some funky energy around for sure. We felt it too. And it seems like ever since just before the fall equinox on Saturday, anyway, here it just
September
like
23rd.
Yeah.
September 23rd.
Yeah, that's exactly when it felt like it shifted.
Yeah, I feel like well, there was definitely a lot of activity that day. My spidey senses about it, I really wanted something physical to happen. I kept saying that, but my senses were like, it's going to be energetic, which it definitely was.
Yeah.
The Schumann was acting up. There was like big waves of energy that were coming through, and I could feel I was getting these weird headaches from it. But yeah, you had mentioned that you had heard that they were possibly using like storm technology to spread negative energy. And yesterday, before we all had those bad dreams, there was this huge storm here. Big, heavy, dark rain clouds. It made it so dark in the house that we had to turn lights on just to see.
Yeah, they do that. So we're getting closer to the good stuff when they're trying to do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I kind of feel like the weather technology is like really one of the last things that they actually have.
Yeah.
But I also know that there's like positive technology. So it's like, it's weird. They don't have all of the weather technology, but they've got some stuff left.
For sure. That's what Gene Decode always says. He said, yeah, the weather warfare is one of the last things they have. So, it's being countered and used by the good guys too. So so
they don't get very far. It's more like a nuisance, and it can really kind of ruin your day without being like highly destructive.
Totally. But yeah, very interesting energy. I'm excited for things to lift up more again and shift. But I mean, I'm excited for today's conversation about Dr. Steven Greer's Kill Switch, because there was a really, really cool event that he did in June, and we'll talk more about that. And a lot going on, and it just goes to show you how I think much we're moving forward with like getting closer to more mass disclosure. And I know a lot of people may have different opinions about Dr. Steven Greer. We're going to pull cards on him and ask some questions and see what intel we can get from the universe. But I'm excited to have this conversation because I think that, he brings a lot of relevant information, and his kill switch is pretty hefty. And I'm curious to see what happens come December, January, when the 6 months is up.
Right. I hope that things move in a positive directions. But yeah, with Steven Greer, he's kind of a polarizing figure inside like the UFO community, which I don't really consider myself a part of, because it's like I'm not like highly involved in it, but I do believe in extraterrestrial life. I think we have more than enough proof that it exists. And there's a couple of statements he's made where I'm like, that sounds good. I don't know if I believe it. Like one of his statements is that there are no negative ETs. There's only positive. And I think that, if you listen to him talk, the way he explains it is the negative ET encounters that we have heard of are man-made. It's, a lot of times they talk about the Greers, for example, which a lot of people talk about being a type of bio-robot. So they're not really organic. They're made to look and act organic, but they're actually, programmable and controlled and maybe used to create fear for people. But also, then it doesn't explain some of the darker stuff that we've heard about. And I mean, the thing is, we don't know. We just don't actually know what's going on. I mean, one thing I will say about the good ETs or not, like from Dolores Cannon's material, she also believed that there were no negative ETs, but the way that the reason she had come to that conclusion is because, you know, she did hypnosis on people, and she actually worked with MUFA, which was an organization that helped victims that were, you know, people who claimed to be abducted. And so she would do hypnosis on those people to determine, you know, who was that, like go back in the memory, see if they could understand or find out what happened, because many of those people have no conscious memory of the event, but they sort of remember the edges of it, but they don't remember the meat and potatoes, you know?
Right.
And through her doing that work, what she discovered was that one, she's talking to the higher self, the greater subconscious mind, and there is nothing negative at that level. So when you're talking to high levels, you're getting a completely different perspective on the story of what's happening versus if you were coming and talking to like the ego or another part of the mind.
Makes sense.
And so when talking to the higher self, everything makes sense. It's like, no, this is this person is actually one of us. They agreed to it. There's a contract that, you know, we weren't doing negative things to them. Many times they find out that they were being healed or cleared of something that had been attached to them, or that they were suffering in some way that was going against whatever their directive was as a being. And so their groups were coming in to intervene and take care of that for them. And that's a lot of times what she got. So she saw it as, you know, depends on the level of consciousness that you are talking to, what you would perceive it as a negative or a positive.
Right.
However, I also studied the law of one. I really love that material. I find it very resonant with me. And they do talk about negative groups. Now but they also talk about them as purposeful, like nothing's happening that's chaotic. Everything has purpose and a reason, and it's part of a spiritual growth path of those beings to go through that.
Right.
But they acknowledge that there are some negative ET. So this is where it's like, I have a hard time fully getting on board. I like the guy. I like what he has to say much of the time, but that's one of those points for me where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you here.
Yeah.
But Amber, we were talking before. Why don't you share? Because I think we're on the same page with him, right? I mean, are you like Camp Greer, or are you kind of like in between?
I mean, I'm more Cam Greer than not, because I think he is, like, in essence, like dropping a lot of red pills into the community. And I think his latest press conference that he held in June, that was about 3 hours, and I'll screen share right away, but I think that there was a lot of validity to that. And he has a lot of whistleblowers coming forth, and like these people's lives have been threatened, ruined, etc. And the fact that they're having the courage to come forth and risk everything to get this information out to the public, and that he announced publicly that he has a kill switch, and maybe we should talk about what that is after. I think that is all very relevant, good information. Right, he knows about all the hidden technology that's being suppressed. He knows about all the big systems that are creating all the stuff, and he talked about all of that and how they're hiding and suppressing us from knowing about extraterrestrials and man-made versus not, right? And all these people that started reaching out to him because he was a emergency medical doctor right before he got into all of this. Yeah, and then he had encounters, extraterrestrial encounters, and then came forth. So I think I'm Team Greer. There's a couple things that make me go, however, like we've been talking about, like there's people playing double, triple agents and have all kinds of roles, and like we don't know. Right. We're here talking about this, but we don't know the kind of like role he's playing, and it's just so deep. How about you?
Yeah, in my heart, I believe he's a good person, and I believe he's doing the right things. I don't agree with all of his perspectives. Yeah. Like I said, the ET one, I'm like, well, I don't know. Some of his stuff, some of his beliefs or the things that he's doing, I don't know if he's doing it to reach another group, which I
Right.
if it is, then okay, I can see why you'd want to like, he doesn't come across as partisan to me. He seems bipartisan. But there's a lot of like democratic leaning, kind of liberal, a little bit of liberal agenda stuff that he talks about, where I'm just like, I don't really agree with that. But he's not doing it in a way that I find to be aggressive. He's not pushing it. It might just be his set belief system, and that's where he's coming from. And I believe, like, I don't need to fully agree with anyone to value what they're putting out into the world.
Well, and the other thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other thing with some of these characters, right? Because everyone's playing a role. Some of them have a more neutral stance. At first, like, look at Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
He was more of a neutral stance on so many things in the world, and now he's picking his side, and it's like the awakening, like being in support of humanity's greatest good. And same with certain political figures that he used to like really poo-poo, that now it's like, oh, like, no, now I'm pro, right, Mr. T or whatever. And so he like shifted, and I almost sense that similar energy with Greer, of that he's almost had to take a more neutral stance with like certain politics and certain agendas going on in the world, because then he can help red pill more people and wake more people up. And as that occurs, he can,
and also, and the feeling I get from it too is it doesn't help him to be partisan when you're trying to reach a group. Like, first of all, he's trying to reach Congress, he's trying to reach the White House, he's trying to reach the Pentagon. These collective places shift party dynamic all the time. So it's not going to serve you to only talk to the people who you politically align with. You need to get to everyone, and to anyone who can break through the stalemate, because ultimately what it comes down to is this is not about parties. It isn't about belief systems. It's about the fact that there is a group or a collective of groups that are deep black ops. They're on hidden budgets. They're taking money from people all around the world, countries all around the world, and using it for programs that humanity will never get to know what they are, but it's being used against us. And that definitely crosses any kind of partisan line. We should collectively be able to get behind someone trying to stop that, whether we fully agree with their perspective or not. I think he's doing the right thing.
I agree. And I know in the conference, he showed like all the different crimes against humanity and just crimes in general that were being committed, and we'll link up the conference so that you can watch it. But it's very significant. Like I can even just pull it up here and share my screen quick, just so you can see, like, this is very significant. Right?
Yeah. So while we're looking at that, let me tell you kind of a breakdown of what this is. So he is reaching out. This was a press conference he gave at the National Press Club on June 12th. And like you can see, it's a 3-hour conference where he has in his possession and has sent to both Congress, the White House, and the Pentagon's Aero Office tens of thousands of government documents from the US, from Canada, Australia, Russia, the UK, and other countries. That they have proof that there's at least, to their knowledge, 145 top secret facilities, and some are black ops. They have them named and cited and mapped. They have all of this classified documentation. They have witness testimony from over 752 plus whistleblowers. So in this conference, if you watch it, you'll meet like 5 or 6 or something. 752 plus.
And that's way more that want to come forward, but they're afraid to.
And this is from over the years. So he's been doing this for years. Some of the whistleblowers have already like passed away. So there's, but there's always more coming forward. And they also have a list of at least 122 crash retrievals that have happened. And so as I understand it, the action he's going to take is he wants to launch a massive civilian RICO case against these individuals involved in these cover-ups and attacks. So, you know, unfortunately, what's happening with these black ops sites is we're literally being attacked by a group of people that are unnamed and not seen, but they have technology, that they have anti-gravity technology, they have scalar technology, the lasers, you know, we've been talking about the laser technology that they've been using. They've got
the the technology to make earthquakes. And one of the whistleblowers talks about that in this live stream.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount they've had and how much we've been attacked. I mean, we take for granted that we think that we're pretty safe, but we're constantly being attacked by these people. We talked about weather manipulation earlier. Who do you think's doing it? It's the same group.
Same group.
Large scale crimes against humanity.
Yes.
The thing that's so crazy, and 0 point energy, we have that. That's something like people would call it free energy. It's 0 point energy, and it already exists. And here's what's insane. This is how you can see that we're technically under attack constantly, because if 0 point, even just 0 point energy got put into the hands where it was given to the public, we would eradicate global pollution and poverty in under 10 years.
Yeah.
No more poverty for the world, not just
world.
one country, not just one group, but the entire world.
Yeah.
No more third world countries.
Be amazing.
It's just
there.
that one thing, just getting the 0 point energy would do so much that would revolutionize our world in a way where we can't fathom it. And because we can't fathom it, that's how you know you're being attacked.
Yeah.
Because we can't picture a world where your life improves dramatically just from an energy source.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting because when I was looking at the map that he shows on the live stream, and comparing it to some of Gene Decode stuff where he talks about the deep underground military bases and all like it's the same, right? So they're the same information, the same places. Like we've been learning about all this over the past few years, and it's great that he is bringing this out en masse now, because people need to know what's been going on and what we've been denied.
And what's so interesting is that number one of the things that he has pointed out again and again in the conference is that no government has had access to that or even has been read in on a lot of the top secret material. So as much as I am frustrated with the governmental structures that are out there, even they haven't gone this deep. Which shows you that there's something deeper underneath our governments that's working. And I mean, this is what people generally call the deep state, right? It's like, what is it? It means something that has more control than what you think is supposed to have. You know, governing control.
Exactly.
Which is spooky scary.
Yeah.
Trying to organize my thoughts around this. My question is, what did you take as the kill switch? Because I don't know if he ever directly said it or not, or if he implied it.
He said that there would be a kill switch. I do clearly remember him saying that. And I think it was that something along the lines of he's going to disclose this technology, like what's been suppressed, part of, and he's going to call out those who've been participating in all the crimes against humanity and name names. And
that's what I understood too, that it was something like he's going to release the classified documents they have, maybe give names and locations of these bases, names of people directly involved in it that they know of for sure. And so I can only imagine what that would do. You know, you got some people on the planet who are upset enough and feel like taking, you know, charge in their own hands. You just don't know. I mean, what I would assume would happen is there'd be some military intervention if that was released, like public, because I mean, the public would probably demand it.
For sure.
I would hope so anyway.
Yeah.
So that's huge. And he literally gave till the end of the year. So that was back in June.
Yeah.
And he's like, 6 months. So that puts us, December, possibly the beginning of the year, which means things could get really interesting. Either we get some movement happening and a controlled disclosure, because these groups are willing to play ball and start to release it, because the demand is release it.
Yeah.
Bring it out in the open yourself, or we'll do it for you, kind of is kind of the gist I'm getting from it.
For sure. And then he released a documentary, is it The Lost Century?
Yeah, it's called The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It.
Yeah. And in the documentary, he actually talked about how he and others that he works with are creating a facility to start producing this 0 point energy. And he shows it in the documentary. So
that is so cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've heard David Wilcock say that he's also working on anti-gravity, because it already exists. I mean, this is the part that's really frustrating, is not only has some of this technology been known since the 1940s, people keep rediscovering it on their own. They figure it out and they discover it, and it gets shut down.
Yeah.
It never makes it that far, which shows you, again, this comes back to the crimes against humanities. We have cures already for things that's we're told are incurable. We have the technology that would literally change. I mean, we wouldn't need roads anymore. So no more paving over large areas, of places. I mean, we've got the technology exists to literally teleport from one location to another. So you can imagine if we didn't even need vehicles to move around the world, then
oh my gosh,
all of that could go back to nature. All of that could become, conservatories and allow things to regrow and repopulate, let nature do what it does best, and we would benefit from it directly. And it's like, this is amazing.
It is.
And what it does, though, it makes my brain jog back to the whole, what the heck happened in the late 1800s? Like, what happened there? Because, I don't know if the people watching have seen those videos where they show the world fairs that were being done, like the one in France where they created that moving walkway that went all around the city.
Yeah.
And then they took it down. And I'm like, why would you create these beautiful, elaborate buildings and all these inventions and then destroy it after? That's something that seems so weird to me. But that's kind of like what you do at these world fairs, is you build up these elaborate cities with all these inventions, and then you destroy it. It's like, wait a second, what the heck is going on? So there's a whole, conspiracy rabbit hole to fall down around that period. But it just makes you go, what did we already have that we're being told doesn't exist?
Yeah.
But it's right in front of our faces.
Yeah. So much. And that's where I love that he did this. And you could feel how nervous he was in his voice when he's talking. And that's where I feel like there is a real sense of authenticity and honesty, because if he was full of it and it didn't matter, you wouldn't have heard it in his voice. I don't know if you did, but the whole time Abby and I are like, wow, we can tell how nervous he is talking.
Oh, sure.
Right. Cause it's legit and it's his life. And I know he always talks about, people are like, well, aren't you worried about your life? And he's like, I have a kill switch on myself. So if they did me in, it would all come out anyway. Right. So there's no point in them trying to mess with me.
It's still nerve-wracking too, because it's like, until we get some evidence, it is like a hearsay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yet if you look back in time at old events, you can see there's a connection there. For example, I would credit Greer with really opening people's eyes to this fake alien invasion agenda that they have, as we understand it, it's kind of one of their last cards to play. It's like, that's their big finale card,
right?
Where they could produce that and make it look like we're being attacked by extraterrestrials, and they're coming to, you know, destroy us. And they have the they have holographic technology, so they could produce things that look very real. They have the craft already, where people have seen these craft thinking it's an ET, but it's really us. It's really just some ops program. They have the ability to do it, make it very convincing. And if he didn't put it out there that, hey, this technology exists and they can pull this off, then if he hadn't said anything, most of us wouldn't know, and we really think it's real. I mean, he, I think, did a great service just with that. Even if it's just an idea he put in people's minds, he's getting us to question and doubt things. So then if they do use it, it warps, you know, it warps the intention. So it really does take the oomph out of it. If they tried to pull that, every one of us, you know, within 20 minutes, you'd see a ton of videos come out of people saying, look, you know, here's that same video. Here's a video from a video game. It's the same one, guys. It's the same one, just like they did in the beginning of the Ukraine war. Remember when they were showing clips on the news and telling people that's what was happening? And it was actually clips from
video games. Yeah, exactly. I agree. So if you haven't watched it yet, make sure you go and do, because some of these testimonies are pretty tear-jerking. I know when the one man talked, I can't remember which whistleblower, but we were like tearing up and getting emotional. He was talking about his dad and how his dad.
So that, let me try to remember it. In that scenario, it was a father and son who had a company, and they were contracted to do something, and they were taken into a base, and they weren't shown, they were not allowed to look at things. In fact, they had like guns pointed on them, and they were told to keep their eyes on the ground, do not look up, look down at your feet, walk forward, we'll tell you when to stop and move. And like from the corner of his eye, they see that floating, it was like an obelisk or something that was levitating off the ground. And they both saw it. And I can't remember why they came after them, because they commented on it or something like that.
I can't recall either, but just that was very emotional.
They weren't supposed to see it.
No.
And it was known that they saw it. And I can't remember if they were asked to sign an NDA and they wouldn't. I think it was something like that, because they didn't. These contractors, these government or black ops groups literally destroyed them. Like took away, just destroyed their business, destroyed their assets, and took them down to like the poverty level. And
big deal.
And destroyed their reputations. So
this is the kind of people, things, energy.
I think it was they wouldn't sign an NDA. I think that's what it was too, and that screwed them over. It's just dark. It's dark stuff. And what about the one guy who was with his girlfriend, right? And they were in a truck, and they came up upon one of the technologies they were using. He was military, and he had taken like a leave day and went off base to go see a movie. And they came back and they ran into something they weren't supposed to see. And so they were using the technology on him. And one of the technologies that they had was sort of this paralyzing freeze ray, kind of like a freeze ray, right? Like it just freeze him in space. And so, you know, he's with his girlfriend and she's experiencing it, and he's watching her experiencing it and can't do anything about it. And I remember he felt really emotional too. It was pretty terrifying to go through that.
Feel the emotion. So you all have to go and check it out if you haven't. But why don't we ask some questions and pull some cards and see what's going on? Like, I'm really curious because, you know, through seeing Greer with Demi Lovato and Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler, etc., working with them, I'm just like, okay, is he a white hat, a gray hat, a black hat? Like, where is he at?
So let me ask my team here. All right, team and spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, higher self, and source energy, come on through. Can you give us information about Dr. Greer? Is he white hat, positive being, or negative? Okay. He's positive.
Okay.
I get that he's positive. Yeah, so it's coming up as the Knight of Wands, and so it's literally like charge. I'm going to take charge. I'm going to fight. He's very fired up about this. It's like he's passionate about it. And he is an instigator of events. That's what, like, part of his life's goal here is to instigate these things. This guy's an instigator. But the Knight of Wands talks about events as well. And he, you know, it's usually powerful and positive when the wands show up in the upright position. Can be very powerful and positive. So he's got there's it's real what he's got behind it. It's not somebody who is, if he was a sword, he'd be talking, but fire is action.
Yeah.
I'm taking action on it. So he's got a big drive. Now behind it is, there's something in the background that's interesting. I didn't even see that, but I looked down. It's the Three of Swords in the reverse position. So there's some pain and suffering in his background that is driving him to do this. Something personal, some personal suffering. It's not something super huge, but it is painful, whatever it was that's driving him to do this. I don't know if he was attacked, I get the feeling there was like an attack energy, maybe someone close to him.
Well, that happened. A few of his colleagues and coworkers got, like, they were exposing stuff and then they died or got killed or got cancer and died and all that.
But this pain and suffering is fueling this fire. Totally. So the more they attack him, the more determined he is to stop them. So it has the opposite effect of what they intend. They intend to shut him down. And instead, every time it's like, F you, now I'm coming at you harder. And so that's the energy of it. So I would say, because it's upright, he's coming up upright. I would say he's in a positive position. He's definitely, this is like a vendetta almost kind of energy. I feel that vibe totally. Yeah. Which is good. That's the most motivating energy. Well, I mean, there's no stopping him. There is no stopping this guy. He's, like I said, he's showing up in that knight's position. Knights are fighters. He's moving forward. He's got a lot of pain and suffering that's fueling it. And maybe also I get to, I mean, if you've ever listened to him talk, he is easily moved to tears, that man. He's easily moved to tears. And the thought of other people suffering creates suffering in his own mind. He's like, that I can't stand to know that you're suffering, your family suffering, our children are suffering, and we don't even know because we are so conditioned to it now. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's what it feels like. I have another question. Will the kill switch have to be used, or that's a good question. Let's see what we can get here. All right, team. Nice truth. Will the kill switch that Dr. Greer has have to be used? Will they actually activate the kill switch? Okay, this one. It's a fight. They're not just as much drive as this guy has. He's a good match to his opponent because they are just as driven. And they feel, when I feel into it, there's a lot of the word is haughty that wants to come out, but it's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, I've got the upper hand. I've got this technology. You don't. Like, try me, bro. It's kind of like the feeling I get from these people. So I get this is the five of cups in the reverse position. So in the upright position, you see this huge obstacle, right? It's huge wall. It's in this reverse position. So I get that maybe they've called their bluff. I'm getting like It's really, my team is like, you've got him by the balls.
Yeah.
Right there. You got him by the balls.
Pretty much.
So they're sort of damned if they do, damned if they don't. But so I'm getting that it's working, whatever this is, it's working. We're not hitting the wall, they're hitting the wall. There's a lot of, because this card represents hope on the horizon. It also represents like a reconciliation or a coming together happening. And it's a 5. 5 always means change. So this is and denoting a positive emotional change where we may, and it might represent like how we as the group feel. It's like, oh, we feel like we've hit the wall. We feel like this thing has been in our way for so long and nothing's happening. And it looks like, I mean, if you look at the road, it's so small and this looks like this immovable block. This thing is creating movement. Something's happening. Something is shifted now. And what's interesting, and again, this isn't me going down a rabbit hole that we haven't gone down here, but he talks about talking to the president. He never says the president's name.
No, he doesn't. That's what I said before. He never said it once.
He just says he talked to him. And I'm like, okay. And that takes you down another rabbit hole we haven't gone down. But let's just say the group that's in there now doesn't seem like the kind of group that would be very helpful. That's all I'm going to say. So it alludes to something that is unspoken, and that is like the shadow, you know, the whole shadow thing, but a good shadow, not a negative one this time. Something has been moved out of the way already. And this is, again, what I really get is this isn't the thing that moved it. It's already moved. These are the theatrics of it. This is the production of it. This has already happened. And things are in place. Now, again, how much movement has already happened, I don't know. And I'm sure because we're part of this movie that we're in. I like the analogy of we're watching a movie, but we're also in the movie. We're actors. We can't leave the movie. Some people want to leave this movie. You can't, you're in it. So a lot has moved and shifted, but our part is on deck and it's happening, but we're the major moving force. Us asking for it, us demanding it, us looking at it, us watching and paying attention is crucial. It's a key to this stuff moving. And the more of us that know and at least look at it, even if we're like, I don't understand, eyes on is very much a different energy than things shifting behind you.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love it. Is there anything you want to ask before we get ready to wrap
Oh,
up?
let's see. So I want to ask my team, this is really hard because timing is never a thing that spirit gets. I want to know if something really starts shifting around this by end of October, because I keep feeling like end of October is a movement point. Like we see something, like we're waiting to see some big things. And I feel like something big happens at the end of October. So I want to just see if I'm getting that right. And again, I can be wrong. Many times when we do timing, we're wrong, but just what's happening. I'm going to ask what's happening at the end of October. And is it related to any of this disclosure stuff? What's happening at the end of October 2023? I just want to be really clear. What's happening at the end of October 2023, team? Can you give us a heads up? Can you give us an idea? You're really making me shuffle. Okay. Sometimes it just like doesn't want to come out yet. All right, what's happening end of October 2023? How about in the United States? Does that help? Okay. There it is. Okay. Wow. Oh, it's my favorite card. Star. This is, so if anyone here follows Tarot by Janine, she calls this her ET card. but this is the star. It's a major arcana. So there is something big shifting. And the star it represents asking smart questions and getting the answer. So something's going to come up for us. This is an illumination, like I'm getting a download, or I got it, something happens. And so I get that there's this like energy, could be ET contact, but I get that like something in humanity gets flipped on. Something happens where we are more activated and aware. We're more in touch with our own unique gift and ability. And that's a big energy that comes forward, which we never consider thinking, like, what happens to us? Like, do we shift enough that we behave differently? And what I'm getting is like, yeah, you get ready. Big shift energy. And I don't mean like the stuff that we're feeling, but like possible contact could now start to occur because this is getting cleared out of the way. Because one, I do believe that there is many positive ETs around us, more than the negative, actually.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's skewed more positive than negative. And their whole thing is, when you're ready, we'll be there, but I'm not going to come up and bombard you until you're ready. So something happens where we get contacted. I'm excited about that. Like, let's do it. I'm ready.
I'm ready too. Come on.
Ready.
Yes. I love it. Amazing. This was so insightful.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Amazing.
And again, when we're talking about these subjects, they can sound really scary and ominous. And all I encourage people to remember is that this is what we've been living with the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. It's been the whole time.
And you're fine. You're okay. Everything is as is. The only difference now is that you're aware of it. Yeah. And the beautiful thing is your awareness on it actually changes what it is. Yeah. So it's powerful to know. And instead of feeling fear about all of these things, just recognize it's coming into the light, which means it's going to change. And it's going to change into something better. Yeah, exactly. What a great way to end the show. Where can everyone find you if they want to learn more, work with you? Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to blythestarlight.com, all one word, and you can see all the things that I offer over there. And you can check out my YouTube channel, which is also at Blythe Starlight, where you can see the karma cards and the other videos that I'm doing to help kind of illuminate what's happening at this time period, and specifically how the universe is assisting you in your spiritual growth. And Amber, how can people work with you? Yeah, and the karma cards are amazing, everyone. You have to go check it out. So if you are wanting support to regulate your nervous system through these times, if you're feeling stressed, if you're in eating to try and suppress some of what you're feeling and you're in self-sabotaging behaviors and you want more energy, you want to regulate your hormones, come and listen to the No Sugarcoating podcast. You can book a 30-minute body freedom consultation, but all the details are below if you want to connect further and do some work together to have support during this time as we go through the biggest shift in the history of humanity and this planet. That's right. And if you have any topics that you want to see us dive into for the shining the light on, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you and hear if there's anything you want us to dive into. So thank you again for joining us for another episode, and have a great rest of your day, everybody. Take care. Bye.